Hey, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is a show all about farmers markets and how to increase your market business success. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're speaking with Master Herbalist Meghan Dolly, owner and founder of The Loose Leaf and the Loose Leaf Tea Bar in Oceanside, California, about the differences between operating at multiple farmers markets and a brick and mortar retail shop, and how to focus on where your passion lies. Hi, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I have spent many years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I have done it all from pulling permits to social media marketing. And I also help coordinate Intense, the farmers market conference.
And I'm Catt White, also an active farmers market manager here in Southern California, director of San Diego markets, doing all the things market managers do, popping tents, hauling barricades, and curating farmers markets. And I'm the founder of the Farmers Market Pros, providing education and an annual conference for farmers market participants.
All right, so welcome back to Tent Talk. Today we're talking with Master Herbalist Meghan Dolly, owner and founder of The Loose Leaf and the Loose Leaf Tea Bar in Oceanside, California. Meghan is a hands-on business operator, whether she's standing in a tent at one of 6 local farmers markets, coordinating employee schedules, or packing boxes of her signature tea blends for wholesale. How does one business juggle market, retail, and online sales? Let's ask Meghan. Hi, Meghan. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks so much for chatting with us today. We're really excited to talk to you.
I know. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we love seeing you every week, and I feel like you are kind of a very particular person that a lot of our listeners want to hear from because you do markets, you have experience with a retail shop, you do wholesale, all that stuff. So online sales, yeah, all that great stuff. So we'll just start with like a little background. So just tell us, like, when did you start the Loose Leaf and where did you start it as a farmers market business?
Okay, so we officially started back in 2008, I guess I would say. And it started, I guess I would say immediately it started online with an Etsy account. But I didn't really get started actually consistently selling until I started doing farmers markets. So that was, I guess, probably more so like full swing of it, like 2011 was basically when I started doing the Little Italy market, you know, Carlsbad, Oceanside, kind of really getting into it and going full time with it. So, but before that, I went to school for herbal medicine and nutrition and became a master herbalist. And I have a background working in an alternative wellness clinic. I did that for about 2.5 years until I really realized that I wanted to not do so much like hands-on consulting with patients and clients and more so be like an herbalist and make tea blends and have that be more so like what I was hands-on doing.
Why tea in this coffee-obsessed American culture? Yeah. How did you land on tea as your business focus?
So that's a good question. So basically I like to think of our business as not so much as tea as it is more wellness focused. So when I went to school, there was, you know, a lot of focus on either making tinctures or salves or nutrition itself and it being more focused around food. But I don't know. I loved the idea of taking all these herbs together, blending them, it was just simple to me. It was simple. It was effective. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with drinking tea when I was about 20 years old anyway. So I kind of knew that I wanted to go into that area. But I honestly, I just feel like there was nothing else that I wanted to do. There was no other option. It was just, I make tea. And
that's that old saying, what's the work you cannot do?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Something that you're so dedicated to.
Yeah.
And for us, it works. I mean, from a market manager standpoint, it works because it's, it's also a grocery item. So whereas we don't host like vitamin supplements or,
right.
medical kind of things per se, because our shtick is pushing the idea that whole unprocessed food is the way to health. So this works on that level.
Yeah, it still has the whole food as medicine idea, and like I said, like it's simple. It's very home-based. It's easy. It's easy for people to wrap their heads around. It's easy for people to do it. It's a very easy, home health care.
Yeah, it's not complicated for the consumer. Right. Like it's been around for so long that people are like, oh, tea. And it's just like you've added something to it. You've added like a specialty to something that's been around for so long. So you can say, well, when you take these blends together, or if you have this helps. So it's kind of a familiar product, and then you put your expertise on it.
Well, and at the gateway, it's a warm morning or evening beverage, before anybody has to get too complicated or analytical about what it is. It's something to drink as well.
Tea is always pleasant.
It's simple. It's easy to ease them into it.
For sure.
Exactly.
Did you have a partner when you got started with the business, or did that come later?
It came later. So originally it was just me, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when it came to actually selling this product or marketing it, anything at all. I was really young too when I started. I guess not that young. I was probably about 26, right out when I really, really started it. And then, no, I did not have a partner. It was all me up until about 2011. And then my ex was a big part of it as well. And I think you guys remember him. His name is Courtney, but he was great. He was definitely the sales part of the two of us. He was very, very good at selling the product, and he had already been in the market scene. So he was a really good person to kind of get me in deeper with farmers markets. And so it was him and I doing it for a couple years, and then that dissolved. And then, but now I have my husband, who is like the back end of everything. He kind of, all of the technologies that we were just talking about that I'm not very good at. He's good at that. He does all web design and web upkeep and structure, all of the shipping structures that we do, anything that has to do with that. And, pictures and all of those kind of things is what he handles. And I'm more of the face, the front line. I make all the teas. I fulfill all the online orders, wholesale orders, and I work 2 markets a week.
Yeah, kind of a great partner for someone who has like the creativity and the special, like you have the interest in it, and you can do face to face. It's nice to have that person to partner with that does like the technical stuff and like be organized about it.
Right. It definitely keeps like the arguments to a minimum, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too.
We're not doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. We're not doing the same thing, which is really, really important. I will definitely stress that. Like, you definitely don't want to have a partner that does the exact same thing that you do. It really doesn't make any sense. But, and then probably about a year ago, we took on more of a silent partner as well.
Like a financial partner.
Yeah. Like a financial partner. Yeah.
Was that related to the brick and mortar, or more to just expanding the business overall?
That is a very good question. So I feel like that's a hard question to just answer. But I will say, yes, it has more to do with the brick and mortar than it does with anything else.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So how did that come about? So you were at markets, and then you decided to open up a shop.
Right. So we started as farmers markets, wholesale, and online. And to be honest, that has always been our focus. We never, ever, ever wanted to open a brick and mortar. That was so why we did it, I don't know. My intention. Well, and being in the farmers market business, I feel like to me, it is the most amazing thing that could have ever happened to my business, because, well, for many, many reasons, but I will say the amount that you get to learn from other business owners is exponential.
It's amazing.
It is. I remember when we first started out, we were at the Oceanside morning market, and I was next to a baker, and he had a double booth, and he baked all this bread, and, bakers, they are the hardest workers in the world. But, and I remember he had a brick and mortar in Escondido, and he was like, don't ever get a brick and mortar. He every day, every week, it was just like, he would beat it into my head. Don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. And I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, no, I won't. Like, that sounds terrifying. Terrifying. And
terrible idea. I promise I will not.
Terrible. Yeah, I promise I won't. And then fast forward to many years later, and we were actually about to do an expansion with getting a bigger warehouse space instead of, sharing commercial kitchen space, which is such a pain in the butt. But so we were finally like, all right, we're going to get our own warehouse. Everything's going to be, we're going to, expand our wholesale, expand online. Like we're going to go nuts. And we actually found a warehouse. We signed a lease. We put down a deposit. And then I immediately went home, and, we're based out of Oceanside. And this is when Oceanside was in one aspect, like crumbling, and then at the very, very brink of starting to rebuild,
Right.
all of the old, griminess of it was like, of those businesses were starting to decline. And there was all of this empty retail space for crazy cheap. So here I am, like I get online, I'm like, oh my God, are we making a big mistake? Should we jump in on this? So we immediately found the space, and
the retail space.
Right, the retail space, and showed my, we weren't married at the time, but my husband, like, hey, what do you think of this? Let's go check it out. We went and checked it out, and literally, a month later, I think we signed a lease on it, or a couple weeks later, and we had these grand ideas. We're going to have this tea bar. It's going to be amazing. And it is, but it is the hardest thing I've ever done, ever taken on. And
it's such a hard business.
It's a beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We owned restaurants before we got into the farmers market business and sold them, and said we will never go back to a food business. Mm-hmm. But what attracted me at the farmers market was you could have that same experience of serving people food, seeing their reaction, having regular customers that came to see you, but just a certain number of times and hours per week. And it was great because it was the same positive experiences of owning a restaurant, but without the 24/7 nature and giant overhead of a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Catt, you couldn't have said it better, to be honest with you. I mean, people who have never been in it or, immersed themselves in a retail space just will never understand the beast of it. And it's funny, every time, we discuss it with another brick and mortar owner, they're always, congratulations on, we're literally completing our sale tomorrow of our lease. And
okay. So you are selling the lease.
We are selling the lease.
But not the business.
Not the business. No.
Yeah, I know you
that's
were
all ours.
Closing down.
So yeah, it's a totally different business that's going into our space, but
good.
we were able to sell the lease on it, which is fantastic. But, everyone's always, congratulations, and I'm jealous, and, good for you. And then, it's always a scary thing when you're telling people that don't understand the beast of a brick and mortar. They think that it's you're not doing well, or, it's not succeeding. And it's like, that's not the case. It's just where you max out. I feel like this aspect of the retail space hinders, any kind of growth that we really could have when it comes to the other entities of our business.
Gotcha.
At least
it's
for
just
us
so
personally.
consuming.
And you guys
it's
are
so consuming.
You were simultaneously doing all the markets and your wholesale, your online stuff, and also having a brick and mortar. It's not like you ceased your operations at the farmers markets and transitioned fully into your shop. You've been doing both this whole time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
we're doing everything. So
yeah,
wholesale, online, brick and mortar, and farmers markets.
Ooh, that's a lot. Did you cut back on farmers markets or pull back at all on your online or wholesale business when you opened the shop?
So not on anything else except for farmers markets.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. I feel like there's a lot in San Diego, we're so blessed, we're so blessed we have so many farmers markets, and we have the ability to have farmers markets all year round, and it's great. But there is a point where you do have to stay with what's working and get rid of what's not working, because the more markets you take on, the more employees you have to have, there. And if they're not doing their best job, then you end up losing money and you're wasting people's time. And, it's just not the best. So when we were in the thick of it, we were doing about 13 farmers markets a week.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And it's a lot, and there are some businesses that can really succeed on doing that, massive amount. But for us, it was, it just wasn't worth it for us. Our product takes a lot of explanation, and, you have to give out a lot of information, and you have to be extremely knowledgeable to be able to be successful,
so it's not just an employee. Yeah. You can't just throw an employee in there. Right.
Right. So it's an investment. So every time we hire somebody, it's like we really invest in them, and they become part of our family. So we have a pretty good, rate of keeping employees. We had one for 4 years. The one girl I have now, we've had her for over a year. And, same with our retail space. We've been really blessed with employees there too. So, but yeah, you kind of have to, you just have to pick and choose, and then narrow it down to, what makes you the most money, what is, how far are you driving? San Diego's massive. So it's like you're driving all over, and, everything just kind of has to make sense. So I feel like we narrowed it down to, the 6 markets that make the most sense for us. And we've been, I think, holding these 6 for the last year or so, nice. Maybe a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Will you pick up more markets again now, moving away from the retail shop?
That's also a great question. We have definitely discussed it. There's a couple that we would like to go back to, but that is all a matter of, there's one in Poway that I would like to get back to, but they have a tea vendor there. So, you don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. So it just depends. And, we did one in Dana Point for years, and we have customers that are really wanting us back there. So I would like to pick that one back up. But ultimately, it's just hard, because it's just a matter of, is it going to be worth our time? And, you guys have been through this. I don't want to start a market and then be like, it's not working. And then,
frustrate shoppers and managers and what have you. Just to talk about employees for a minute, because it sounds like you do a good job of investing in your employees and you keep them for a while. Are your employees cross-trained, where the same staff member who works a market can also load a box for online shipping or work at the counter in the brick and mortar tea bar?
Not really. I will say, so we have one girl that works at the farmers markets, and that's the only market employee I actually have. And she does work 1 day a week, in the back of the shop, where she pouches all of the tea.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
She usually comes in on Friday. So she does that. And then otherwise, any employees that we have at the shop, they are usually just shop employees. Since we are getting ready to close, we have, we do want to keep the one employee that we have at the shop now and get him starting to do markets and, back end stuff and everything like that. But when it comes to like all the shipments and everything and packing orders, I've been doing all of that, and it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So you sell a lot. Do you sell a lot online as well, direct to consumers?
We do. And that's the thing that's really been frustrating for us is we've been at this kind of standing still point where we do, within a range every single month, and that's great. But we have been having this difficulty with getting past that. I feel like, everything that we know how to do within our skill set has been used, and we're really at the point now where we're actually about to start working with a marketer, and we're going to get on Amazon and all that. But
interesting.
Another reason for this, move out of the retail space is to have more of a focus on expanding online. So,
do you have some? I'm going to assume that's a really big learning curve, though, because you've already done online direct to consumer, and you've also sold wholesale into other people's retail stores, right?
Correct.
So that there's a really big difference in margin when you're selling direct to the consumer and then wholesale. Now, Amazon takes an even bigger chunk, so that margin's going to be different too. That gets complicated.
Yeah. And you know what? We are not doing that ourselves. We're actually working with a marketing team that is, they've set up like this whole Amazon checklist, and we're
interesting. Good.
Yeah. So we have someone actually doing the grunt work for us, which is really nice. Because when we first, I think a couple of years ago, we looked like, oh yeah, we should sell on Amazon, like everybody thinks. And my husband kind of pulled up like, all the regulations, FDA regulations, they're very strict, they have like pretty heavy guidelines. And we're both like, I don't understand any of this. So it really is, especially if you're selling an ingestible product, it really is helpful to have someone that can nail out all of the guidelines for you. And
right. And that's tricky. But I guess my fear, and what I've heard some horror stories and some positive, some winter stories too. But I've heard a lot about just sort of the Amazon cannibalizing it, and you put your product online, but then they have sponsored products that they suggest when somebody goes to pull up your product. So Amazon can get kind of cutthroat. Do you have people that are working with you that are experienced on that side of how do you keep your position on Amazon, and how do you avoid just sort of being a loss leader while they push people over to another tea company, for instance?
Right. I do feel like our marketing team is pretty knowledgeable about that. But at the same time, like I said, we've literally just started our checklist for Amazon. So we're really not quite there yet. And it might turn out to be something where we're like, this isn't worth it. We don't want to do it. But when it, go ahead.
Well, just obviously on the bright side, that their audience is enormous, and they handle shipping for you, which is great. Yeah. So, there's certainly pluses there too.
Absolutely. And I was going to say is that we have, our product has pretty great margins. So we are able to do stuff like that and, take that a little bit of a hit to make it worth our while to go on something like Amazon. But ultimately, if our website can be the number one, that would be really, really great. So that's basically our next move here in this next year. We're, moving out of the retail and moving into a warehouse space, almost going back to, our original goal and ramping up wholesale online and hopefully starting with Amazon.
Smart.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So online's great for sure. You're not subject then to specific hours, and you can work at all times. It sounds like you're good about taking on experts for various things. When it comes to dealing with employees, do you hire an HR or a payroll firm to help you with that?
No, it is just me and my husband, and we process everything through Square. So Square has a whole payroll system and all that. So it's really easy. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we've got a lot of at our conference coming up. We're going to have a big payroll session again. We did last year, but it was mostly really scary, and everybody just wanted to get out of business once they heard it. But and the reason we keep coming back to that part of the education program is because we've seen some vendors get into real trouble with employees by not realizing you can't do independent contractors if you're going to tell them where to be, and not doing workers' comp and all those things that you have to do when you have somebody working for you.
Right. Yeah. We just run everything through Square. It's not the most fun having to pay those employee taxes, but it is what it is. And, it's you have to do it. I couldn't imagine doing it another way.
It's the only way to scale up, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen a lot of vendors that don't want to take on extra employees, but you only have 24 hours in a day. And so you cannot physically scale your business up without at a farmer's market business or a brick and mortar or something where you need actual hands doing something. Right. You have to get that extra help. So it's just,
that's the big quandary. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of question point that everybody has to come to from time to time is, how big do I want to be? Is this big enough to support me? When you get bigger, you've got to also support more people. So is the actual bottom line going to be bigger? So there's a whole bunch of things that we talk about all the time about right sizing our businesses.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting topic too, because there's such a huge part of me since I've been doing this for so long. And I feel like we've had just such slow growth, compared to if we had a ton of capital where we could be. But then there's that part of me that's, I like being small. I
Sure.
like being able to go to the farmers markets on Saturday and Sunday and know my customers and have them know me. And, they know where everything comes from. And, there's that part of small business that is scary to lose because, I don't know, once you get to a certain level of business, when it expands, it's just, to me, I look at that and I'm like, oh God, that sounds so overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the reality of that too is that you obviously have more hands in the pot and more people helping, but it's intimidating. I guess that's probably the best way to say it.
And I think it's not necessarily a thing where bigger is always better. I think each person has to really look at, what's more important to you, some time or at scale so that your business is bigger. Having the opportunity to employ people is really gratifying. It's cool to help other people make a living. But at the same time, you've got to think about your own life balance. So,
right.
Yeah. And it's kind of the charm of being in the farmers markets. If you're someone that really likes being in the markets, it's probably because you like you said, the face-to-face and your customer, you have your regular customers. I've seen vendors that scale up kind of big, kind of fast, and they kind of lose that personal touch to their business. And so they might be doing very well and they're very successful and they get into, Whole Foods or wholesale shipping, or they open up a brick and mortar and they like that part of the business. But something gets lost in there, I think, when you try to reach too high too fast. And you don't get, you kind of lose that, like what we say we miss about the restaurants, like that personable kind of interaction with customers. Like you just kind of lose that part of it. And sometimes that's the whole reason you went into the business. So you might, make a ton of money or have a ton of shipments going out or something. But it's, can you still sustain your business and keep that small kind of charming part of your business? It sounds like you have a good kind of grasp on keeping that alive.
And growing slowly, I think, lets you keep examining that.
Exactly.
So, when you say if you had a bunch of capital, you could just grow really fast. I think some of the most successful businesses we've seen, even big businesses, are ones that grew really slowly and deliberately.
For sure.
So they made all those decisions as they went along, as opposed to just getting swept into the idea that scale or bigness is everything.
Definitely. Yeah.
100%. I love that you guys said that because it is true. And, I see, and I'm sure you may even see this too, being in the farmers market so long, you have a lot of vendor friends and you get to know other people's businesses and you share a lot of ideas and what works for them. And, hey, do you have employees? Hey, this, can you help me here? And it's wonderful. But I see them opening brick and mortars and both of the owners being fully immersed in that brick and mortar. And then everything else gets kind of pushed on employees. And, one of the things that my husband and I have found is that it is super, super important for one of us to be in the markets. And obviously that would be me. But, it is important. It's important. Like I love having only having to do 2 a week. I will say that, like any more than 2 or 3 is really exhausting for me. But, it's important financially, I think, for one of the owners to be in the markets. And I also think that it's like financially important. And it's also really just important that people remember you, like no one's going to sell your product like you are. No one's going to have that passion. No one's going to put that forth. And that is important for your customers to see. It's important to show up every once in a while and, grace them with your presence and thank them, for continuing to come back, week after week after week and supporting you. It's, I guess it's easy for it to get redundant, but these are the people, this is why you're here, and it's important to show that gratitude.
Well, and that's what farmers market shoppers are all about. If they wanted the cheapest product or the easiest way to shop, simpler to park, one register, they could go to a supermarket. But the reason they come to farmers markets is for those relationships. They want to know who's producing their food.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have one tip that you would share with either new businesses or maybe even more with a business that's been in the markets for a while and is thinking about what's next? What would your most important tip be? Other than don't open a restaurant, don't do it.
I feel like this is so partial to what the business is, but I guess, coming into the farmers markets, and I would say I guess this is what I would always say years ago to when I was just in markets, I would say yes to everything and then figure it out after. Just say yes. Like, it was important to me to say, I said yes to every farmer's market. I figured it out. I would go, I would be in it. I would see what worked. Some markets, like, Little Italy is our best farmer's market by far. Okay. But for some vendors, that's not the case. Some vendors, their product does better in a smaller, whatever the case may be. But I feel like it's so important to try and say yes to events, say yes to doing a podcast. I mean, this is like my most terrifying thing. And I'm like,
but you're so good at it.
You're doing great.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Like any kind of public speaking, I'm like, oh my God, this is my nightmare. This is usually my husband's job. But I would just say yes. Like, if you're new in the business, you're a new entrepreneur, like, say yes to as many things as you can. And, failure is 90% of growth. So if you screw that up, like, on to the next. You learned, you learn. But I would say, and then remember why you're there. Like, do it because you love it. We went through a really, really difficult time after we opened the shop, and all I wanted to do was run away every single day from all of it. It was exhausting. It was hard. We never had enough money, and we're finally out of that. But it was so important to go through that. Like, it changed our lives forever. So I would just say, say yes, make friends, lean on your friends. You're not going to be able to handle everything yourself, and get proper help and just try to do it all.
That's great.
Oh, I like it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. I feel like your insight is just so valuable for not just food vendors of the market, but just anybody that's in the farmer's market business, just to kind of keep your focus straight and focus on that kind of why you're there in the first place. So we always kind of do a little wrap-up question at the end. So since you seem to have a good grasp on your business, our question this week is, what's your favorite business tool? And I guess that could mean a couple different things. So I'll give you a second to think about that. Kat, why don't you go first? What's your favorite business tool these days?
These days, I wish I could say Basecamp, because everybody keeps trying to make me use that.
I wanted to love that.
And it is handy if you actually pay attention to it, but I don't. Yeah. So that's not really my favorite tool. So I would say probably my favorite tool is Google Drive. I hate to give a big shout out to the big dog, Bezos, but
they run our lives.
But it's just so efficient.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of market management tools. I've got a couple of good friends that are developing and evolving market management tools, but we've adapted Google Drive to create really good archiving information and maps for the markets, and our application process all lives in there. And the amazing and wonderful thing about it for me is that we do have a team here, and all that stuff stays live. Changes happen in real time so that everybody can see the change when we make it, and that's just invaluable for us.
For sure. Yeah, we use that for almost everything. Megan, what's something that you use for your business a lot that you feel like is your favorite business tool?
Well, I will say that I think I said this earlier. I'm terrible with technology, and but I will say Square has been the best tool for everything. We use it in our shop to process, at the cash register. We use it for our payroll. We use it for our markets. We have a ton of inventory. So, for our employees at the farmers markets, everyone gets their own inventory set up. So everything gets logged in there, and every time they make a sale, it comes out. So it's very easy, and all sales are tracked in there. Square is they do everything, and they offer capital as well. And it has saved our butts many, many times. So,
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I knew they offered capital. It's interesting to talk to somebody who's used that. That's great. And I didn't know they had a payroll system until this morning.
No.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
They're probably they came in right as we were kind of taking off with doing farmers markets and everything. And I still think that they are the most amazing tool for small businesses. 100%.
Awesome. Yeah, we were just talking about Square, how their swipe and tap rates are going up a little bit as of November 1st.
Especially for small purchases. It works out fine if you're selling something big, but if your average sale is small, it's going to cost you more. But still,
the service is such a value.
Yeah, it's just the ability to keep track of your inventory and things. It may just be worth paying that amount because they're so versatile.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it would take a lot. it would take a lot for us to switch out.
Yeah. Sounds like and it sounds like you're using Square to its fullest potential,
Right.
which I don't know if a lot of businesses are doing. They're just using it for processing credit cards. But if you're really taking advantage of everything Square has to offer, it sounds like they could be a really
smart.
invaluable tool. So
Yeah.
nice.
How about you, Bridge? What's your favorite tool?
I hate to also talk about Google, but
I was sure you were going to say Canva.
actually, I will say Canva. Well, I'll say both my
What's the
photo
Google?
tools. Well, I was going to say Google Photos
True.
because I try to organize my photos and put them in albums, and we used SmugMug for a while. And we tried to tag all the photos, but we just really couldn't do that. I'm not that kind of person that's organized like that. But Google Photos, you just load all your photos in there, and then you can just type a keyword in, and it'll search your photos. You don't have to tag anything. It just looks for it. Like the other day.
Yes.
Yes.
I did not know that. That's
it
creepy.
just typed in.
Cool and creepy.
That's creepy because you can
Yeah,
search
I know, right?
people's faces, which is really Big Brother-ish, but it's really saved me. A lot of times when I'm writing an email newsletter in the final hour and I really need a picture of
kohlrabi,
guava. Well, this week I need a picture
right.
of guava, and I did not have a good picture of it. And I typed guava, and this beautiful picture from a few years ago at a farmer's market that I took showed up, and that was still the same farmer that's at the markets now. And I used this beautiful picture of guava.
How about that?
No way.
Yeah, I'll have to look more closely.
Good. Yeah. So it's nice. But sometimes you'll type in stuff and weird stuff will pop up, but it's mostly been really useful. And Canva, I feel like, has really saved us a lot for someone who is also not very, I'm not very hip with the technology, but it's nice because you get something that looks pretty professionally designed and you can make something real quick, I know some of our graphic designers are think that it's, a joke or whatever. And I still like using a professional graphic designer for a lot of things, but Canva has really helped when we're doing a Facebook event or something, like Halloween at the market. You just pop a little Facebook event cover together and it just looks really nicely done. So Canva's been a good tool.
Yeah, it's a handy tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Bridget, what was the first one you were talking about? It was Google
Photos.
Google Photos. Okay.
Yeah, and it's an app, so it's it's connected to your Gmail, so you just can look it up there, and then it's an app on your phone. So then every time you take a picture on your phone, you can either I have a Google phone, so my camera roll is my Google Photos, but on my iPhone, I would use my iPhone Photos, and it would go into my camera roll, and then I would just do a backup into my Google Photo app on my phone, and it would just back up all my photos. So they're just living there forever. So I have
shareable.
It's
Google
shareable
Photo album. So the other members of the team can get the same photo.
Yeah. So we have our staff put their photos that they take at the market into Google Albums so that I can see them. So if I'm writing an email newsletter or I'm trying to do a cover photo for the podcast and I need a particular type of photo that's at the markets, I can search their photos. I can search my photos, and it's really easy. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very
All right,
handy.
I'm going to have to look into that.
See, well, this is what we're all about, sharing that knowledge. So
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Megan. And we will see you in a few days at the market. And thanks so much for chatting with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And congratulations on getting free of the piece that was dragging you down and going on to expand and back to what you love.
We are the people that say congratulations when you close your order because we understand it can be a success. That's a successful thing to do a lot of times, is to close on your own accord, and it's fine, and it doesn't mean failure, and it's just you're on to the next. Your business is morphing into what it's going to be next, and that's fine.
Yep,
that's
awesome.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
100%. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, Megan.
Bye.
Can you believe it's almost the end of 2019? February 2020 is just around the corner. Eek! So register now to join us and farmers market managers, farmers, and food makers from throughout the U.S., Canada, and beyond, all gathering in San Diego, California on February 2nd through the 4th at the 4th Annual Intense the Farmers Market Conference. You can still save $60 with advanced registration pricing at just $295 for a full access 3-day pass through the end of the year. Starting January 1st, though, only $355 regular price passes will be available, so save $60 when you register today. Bring your whole team and save even more with our buy two, get one free Threes Company passes. This is the lowest price still available, so don't miss out. Use that ticket link at farmersmarketpros.com and check it out right now. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you're accessing your podcast these days. and let us know how you're enjoying it. Be sure to subscribe to Tent Talk so you don't miss our next episode. And if you want more farmers market tips, tricks, and information, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com and follow us on Instagram at farmersmarketpros. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded by Adam Samaha and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks for listening.